Hello and welcome to Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. We're broadcasting out of WLBE, my 790 AM out of Leesburg, Florida. And if you're watching us on Lake Sumter Television, you're watching us on Comcast Channel 13, Bright House 498, and CenturyLink Prism Channel 83. Today we're going to be speaking with a couple of volunteers from Angel Flight Southeast. And our first guest is Mr. Bruce Brown, a volunteer for the program as well as an Angel Flight Southeast board member. Bruce, thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about Angel Flight Southeast. What is it?
Well, Angel Flight Southeast is a nonprofit organization that specializes in flying sick children and adults to the various hospitals where they need to get special care and where they have special financial needs.
So who exactly do you serve then? Is it just people in this area, just people that are in dire need?
Anybody who is more than 100 miles away that has to travel to a special hospital where they can't get local care, that's where we can step in, and then we can fly those patients to the various hospitals to do special, like cancer treatment, other special needs that isn't local. We're a part of the Air Charity Network, so there's an Angel Flight Northeast, Central, West. So we can actually fly in coordination with the other Angel Flights. We can fly them about 1,000 miles away is about our limit. But then we coordinate with them. So we have had cases where we'll fly patients all the way to Texas to get treatment. We also handle, about 2-3 years ago, we picked up the Bahamas, Puerto Rico. So,
wow.
So we stretch out from different places, but we have flown patients all the way to the Chicago area, New York, or whatever, because sometimes special treatment, I mean, that's as far as you have to go for some of these patients.
And I don't know that a whole lot of people really understand that. You have hospitals all around the state, in every state that you live in.
Right.
To have to travel to Texas for a specific procedure and not have the means to get there, that's pretty significant.
Oh, absolutely. And so we can come to these patients' aid and help them get to where they need to go to get that treatment.
Okay. Oh, how did you get involved in Angel Flight Southeast?
I actually heard a presentation, and it was around 2007 or 8, and I started helping out, and then I became more active. I actually became the chair of a couple of the charity events that we have, and so I started out small, but now I'm literally donating hundreds of hours every year, and I'm proud to do it because I just love this organization.
That's great. That's great. And since the pilots volunteer their services, because Angel Flight Southeast operates off of fundraising.
Correct.
Correct. How do they get paid? How does that work? Is it just lemonade stands, paying for air fuel?
Well, some of the money that we raise are through grants. Some are the fundraisers that we do all over the state. Like we have our annual golf tournament that many people come to, and we have some events coming up in the very near future. But that's how we raise a lot of the money. The pilots will donate their planes and their time and their fuel, but it costs us on average about $100 per flight segment because we have to coordinate with the FAA, with the doctors and hospitals, and there's just a lot of time involved in making sure that we adhere to all of the regulations and things like that has to go on.
Wow. Now, is there a cost to the passenger?
Not at all. No, everything is free to the passengers.
100% free.
100%.
And how do they sign up for it?
A lot of times they'll hear about our organization, so they'll call our office, which is right here based at the Leesburg Airport. In many cases, it has to do with many of the hospitals will have staffers that are familiar with Angel Flight, and like the caseworkers, and they will, when they recognize that there's a special need, then the caseworker can put the families in touch with us or give us a call and say, okay, this person may need some help.
Now, how many times can one passenger fly?
It's virtually unlimited. Yeah, there's
Really?
right. We've already had cases where we've had a patient that has flown, oh, like 100 times.
Wow.
We had a little girl. They had to fly 4 flight segments once a week for 52 weeks, and we were able to handle all of that with our pilots. So some cases, it might be where they only have to travel a couple of months, but in some cases, it literally could be 1 or 2 years before they can get cured.
Oh, and I imagine you probably have hundreds of stories. If that's how many people that you have helped over the years, right. Any of those come to mind?
My favorite story is a little girl named Aubrey, and her family lived in the Panhandle. She was born with a deformed head, and the only place they could get treatment was down in Miami. And it was a special procedure where once a week for 52 weeks, she would have to go down there and they would fit her with a special helmet. And every week it had to be adjusted. So it's 2 flights going down and then 2 flights coming back. So most of the time coming down, they would land either here at Leesburg or Sanford or Orlando, change planes and pilots, and then they would fly them down to Miami and then turn around and fly right back. And through 52 weeks, they never had to spend one night in a hospital. We were able to get with our pilots, and we were able to get them to and from. So you can imagine the burden that we were able to lift off of them. And Aubrey today is doing just fine.
Is that right? That's fantastic. That really is. And if you've ever had someone who needed that kind of help, I've got family members. Just the inconvenience and the burden financially on having those overnights, it starts to rack up.
Sure.
It starts to rack up, and it becomes a large burden on the family. So all of your money is generated through fundraisers. Do you have any events coming up in the near future?
We do. We have our, on April 15th, we have our 5K run. It'll be our 7th annual event at the Orlando Executive Airport. We've started attracting runners now from all over Central Florida who love to come there. And one of the treats for that is that they can actually run on the runways at the Orlando Executive Airport. So that's a real treat for them. So they actually section off a portion of the airport for just that 5K run.
The Orlando Executive.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what else do you have coming up?
Well, we have our annual poker tournament. Unfortunately, I don't have a date yet. The first couple of dates I chose weren't available, but it's most likely going to be the 3rd or 4th weekend, Saturday in April. So all of our listeners can double check our website, which is angelflightsc.org, and there's a list of all the events where they can go register. So hopefully in the next week, then we'll finalize the date, and then all that information will be available to them.
Talk to me a little bit about the Pilot of the Year Award.
That's coming up also very soon. We started this about 5 years ago, and it was a way to honor all of the pilots who donate so much of their time and their efforts, and not to mention the money for all the fuel and everything. And it's a way of us giving awards to those pilots who go above and beyond the normal duty that they do. So we're very pleased to be able to honor them, and so our annual Pilot of Awards is coming up in about 2 weeks.
How many pilots are we looking at, nationwide?
Well, Angel Flight itself has about 650 pilots, and
that's a lot.
I might also mention
all
that,
volunteers again.
All volunteers. I might also mention that we also are part of the organ donor program. So we don't fly organs to patients, we fly patients to organs. So at any one time we may have 5 to 15 pilots on standby because we already know the patients that are awaiting a certain organ. And as you might imagine, we could get a call any time of the day or night, and that organ is now available at such and such hospital.
Right.
And we only have a few hours to be able to get them there.
Wow, that's all the time we have for this segment. Bruce, thank you very much for coming.
You're very welcome.
When we return, we'll be speaking with Mike Alger, a volunteer pilot for the Angel Flight Southeast. We'll be right back. Hi, and welcome back to Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. Before the break, we were speaking with Bruce Brown, who is a volunteer for Angel Flight Southeast. And now I'd like to welcome our second guest, Mr. Mike Alger, who's a volunteer pilot for that program. Mike, thanks for coming on the show.
Good afternoon, Kris. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, anytime. So, how did you get involved with Angel Flight Southeast?
Well, I became aware of them when I was taking my initial flight training at the Leesburg Airport, where they are based. And they would occasionally have a fundraiser, and matter of fact, it was at a fundraiser lunch that I attended where I really learned who Angel Flight is and what they do. And so at that time, I promised myself that if I was ever in a position where I could volunteer as a pilot for Angel Flight, I definitely wanted to do that. So back in 2012, I found myself able to get involved with them and signed up right away. And I was actually assigned my first mission in October of 2012. My first mission is probably solidified, why I'm still a volunteer pilot today. It was very special. I had accepted a mission, and about a week out, I got a phone call from Angel Flight that said that the mission had been canceled for that particular passenger, but they had another one that they needed a pilot for, so on the same day. So of course I jumped at the opportunity to do my first flight.
Sure.
Now it's important to note here that I lost my mom to cancer in 2009. Her name was Joan, and when I went to pick up my very first Angel Flight passenger, her name was Joan. So that was very, very special to me because my mom was always very supportive of my flying endeavors, and I credit her with my abilities to be able to do it. So that will always be my first mission will always be my most memorable one, I think, because of that.
And certainly understandable. Certainly is. So you've been doing this for a couple of years now.
Yeah, since 2012. So yeah.
Okay.
5 years.
And what do you're the pilot, so I got to ask, what do you fly?
I have a Rockwell Commander. It
sounds cool.
It's a very comfortable airplane. It's designed for traveling. I keep it at the Umatilla Airport, which is my hometown. I was very fortunate to get into this airplane, it started as a partnership airplane, and I was just a very nice plane all around, and I'm very fortunate to be able to use it to help other people. Absolutely.
And how many flights have you done?
I'm somewhere between 25 and 30 missions now.
Wow.
Yeah. I kind of set a goal for myself to do one a month. I don't always meet that, especially in the summertime in this part of the country. A lot of times missions have to be are challenging because of weather. So a lot of times during the summer I don't get to fly very many missions because of that. But I try to do about one a month when I can.
So I'm very curious about this. Do you fly in and out of big airports, or are they all just the little small ones like Umatilla and Leesburg?
Well, many of the destination airports are in larger metropolitan areas. Sometimes it's most efficient to fly in and out of the smaller executive airports within those big cities. Tampa is a perfect example. We go to Tampa Executive quite a lot. But yeah, I've been to Miami International and taken people from the large airports to their home airports that are just as small as my home base.
And see, to me, that is so cool. That people think medevacs or something like that. Big planes.
Sure.
And these are just
general aviation aircraft. Most of them are smaller four-seater, 4 to 6 seat, single engine for the most part.
Now, how many passengers can you carry?
Well, all GA aircraft are weight-based, so if the fact that they have horse seats doesn't mean that you can always carry three
Exactly.
passengers in addition to the pilot. It's a weight-based thing. There are weight and balance envelopes that have to be strictly adhered to for safety's sake. So it all really depends on weight. On average, I can usually carry about 2 adults.
I assume you bring a guest or someone to accompany the patients when you fly.
Oh, that's generally up to the passenger. Sometimes they have a friend or family member that is able to go, but often it'll be just myself and the passenger.
Okay, and so if it's just you and the passenger, what is? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, what is that like? What is it like to fly people with sometimes life-threatening illnesses?
Well, I have a background in the medical field, and I've had lots of experience with people who are injured or sick, and that's been kind of at a limited scope, though. Our passengers often fly rather frequently, and you get to know them, and you get to kind of follow their progress, and hearing their stories is very inspiring and humbling at the same time. And I'm always impressed by our passengers and their positive attitudes in the face of what they're dealing with. It's very inspirational to me.
Oh, I bet. Now, do you become friends with any of your passengers?
Sometimes. Most of my passengers, even the repeat passengers, are kind of scattered all over the state. So having that kind of relationship would be a little bit challenging. There is a local passenger that I recently met this past year. We're about the same age, and have similar interests, and I see he and his wife around town frequently, and we've been trying to get together socially. It's just a matter of getting our schedules to jibe, but I'm sure it happens.
Sure. And the big picture is, I'm not asking if you make fishing buddies with anybody, but it seems to me that if I was a volunteer pilot, I would gain some kind of affection towards them.
Absolutely. I mean, there's definitely a relationship there, especially when you have repeat passengers that you fly back and forth a lot. And I like to keep up on their progress and see how they're doing.
Now, you said you have a little bit of medical history. You're also a firefighter, correct?
I'm a firefighter paramedic, yes, for the city of Mount Dora. I've been with them for 17 years.
Wow, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how does that work with Angel Flight?
Well, I actually have 26 years experience as a paramedic. Prior to getting into the fire service, I worked for EMS here in Lake County. So many years of transporting patients just all over the place. And I think that's really contributed to my comfort level of kind of what we talked about earlier as far as flying passengers with life-threatening illnesses. It kind of boils down to the same professionalism for me. I tell people that I don't get paid to fly, but I'm still a professional pilot, because my attitude is that my passengers deserve first and foremost to be safe, and they deserve to have confidence that they will get to their appointment on time and in reasonable comfort. And I take a lot of pride in that professionalism. As for the fire department itself, we work a 24-hour shift with 2 days off in between, so that leaves me a lot of time during the week. I do try to avoid taking missions on my first day off because I never know what kind of night I'm going to have at the fire department. And I would hate to have to make the decision about scrubbing a mission because I'm too tired to fly, because that certainly can happen. Up all night at the fire department, I'd be whipped the first day. So
Exactly.
I try to pick my missions on my second day off, so I'm sure to be fresh and rested for the flight.
Okay. Now, is it a requirement that the volunteer pilots need to have a medical background?
Absolutely not, no. I think I'm actually probably one of very few, because Angel Flight, and a lot of people who know me and learned that I got involved in Angel Flight not knowing what Angel Flight was, they would assume that Angel Flight is an aeromedical organization, and it's not. Our passengers cannot require any hands-on medical care during the flight. We provide them only with the transportation. So there's no medical background needed at all.
Okay, so if you're a pilot, or one of our listeners are a pilot, and they're interested in this, they don't have to be a doctor and a pilot
Absolutely
in order
not,
to
no.
volunteer this.
Of course, no. The requirements for Angel Flight Southeast are, and this is pilot jargon I'm using here, but they'll understand what I'm referring to. They'll need 250 hours of PIC time, and of course a current medical, third-class medical at least, and pilot's license,
Sure.
obviously.
Well, we certainly hope so.
They don't require, Angel Flight Southeast does not require an instrument rating. I have an instrument rating, and I use it all the time, and it's an extra level of safety, and but it's not a requirement.
Okay. What would you like other pilots out there to know about Angel Flight?
Well, without hesitation, it's the best thing I've done with my pilot's license. It's probably the best thing I've done with my life, and just the rewards that I get from being able to fly my plane and help someone in the process is just nothing like it. So I would say that probably 90% of my flying these days is for Angel Flight, and I'm just fine with that.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So you don't have to be a career pilot, because you're a career firefighter.
that's correct.
Wow. And so if someone was interested, where can they get this information?
They can go to the website. That's angelflightse.org, and there's a tab there. It says "Become a Pilot." It'll take you right into the application process,
Okay.
which is not difficult. You just fill out the application and send in your copies of your licenses and stuff like that. And there's every so often they do an online seminar for new pilots as far as learning the system, how it works, how you get your missions, filing mission reports, things like that. It's not complicated at all. It's a
Okay.
very streamlined web-based system, so
Okay.
that we get our flights.
Is there a minimum or a maximum to how many missions a pilot can do a month?
So there's no requirement. As you do what you can do, and the system is great. I love I call it the mission board. Every evening I get an email with a list of all of the available missions that they're looking for pilots to fill, and they try to fill these out at least 2 weeks in advance, so you have plenty of time to plan. And
Sure.
it just takes you to some basic information such as the weight, how many passengers there. Obviously, the date of their appointment time, if applicable, and where you're picking them up and where they're going. And from that, you can choose whether or not you want to sign up for the mission, and you do that all on the website and select the mission, and then they send you information where you contact the passenger and you do your flight.
It sounds simple enough.
It's very simple.
I mean, it sounds
It's
easy,
terrific
easy.
because, like I say, it's good to be able to plan well ahead. And
For sure. Now, do the pilots also participate in the fundraiser events?
I certainly do. I always try to. I mean, I'm so impressed with Angel Flight, and I enjoy being involved in so many facets of it that, I try to, and whenever possible.
That's great. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Mike, thank you so much for coming.
Hey, thank you very much for putting us out there.
Anytime. Well, that's it for today. This has been Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin. We'll see you next time.